health seekers. Tonight I'm gonna be making wholemeal wraps. So I'm gonna be using, I've never tried this recipe before, so it'll be a new one. I've made it with sweet potato and just normal water, but today I'm gonna be flavoring it with the roasted pickled pepper and some smoked paprika. So we'll see how it works out. So I've got my ingredients here and I've got a recipe. The recipe I'm using is from happyhealthymotivated.com website. So it's easy whole wheat tortillas. So I'm gonna be modifying it slightly because I'm not gonna be adding oil, but I'm gonna be adding tahini instead. So what you need is 2.5 cups of whole wheat flour. So I'm using a organic fine plain English wholemeal flour. It's nice and light because it's ground from softer wheat varieties, so it's very similar to your white refined flour, although it's still wholemeal. So I'm going to be using that. So we need 2.5 cups of flour. So I'll be measuring that. So that's 1. Not quite 2. We need to start the next bag. So this is 2.5 I need. So that's 2.5 cups of flour. Then what we need is half a cup of olive oil, it says. So I'm gonna get half a cup of tahini in a second. So I've got my half a cup of tahini. Also we'll need 1 cup of water, but instead of water I'm going to be using pureed roasted marinated pepper that I've got here. So I'm going to be using that with a little bit of smoked paprika, so hopefully our wraps are quite nice and peppery and smoky. So we'll try that. So I'm going to puree the 1 big pepper in here, and then whatever you know is not enough for a cup, I'll add some hot water so to make it warm. So I've pureed the pepper. Let's have a look. So we've got 2/3 of a cup, and now I'm gonna top it up with hot water. So we've got a cup of liquid. We might need to add a little bit more water since obviously this is puree and not quite just water. So I've pureed the pepper and topped it up with hot water. It was about 2/3 of a cup of puree and that little bit of hot water. So now I've got some warm puree here. So we're going to start by adding the tahini to your flour. Okay, so I'm gonna empty that out, and I'm gonna give it a little bit of a mix, and we're gonna be using a hand mixer with dough hooks to incorporate this this tahini paste into the flour first before we add the liquid. So I've got my hand mixer, and I'm gonna put it on low. And I'm gonna finish it off by hand. because I can see still a bit of bigger lumps. What you want is like fine crumb consistency, so that the tahini paste gets kind of incorporated and coated in flour. So gonna mix that by hand, so it looks quite good. It's quite fine crumb now. So I'm gonna now be adding the puree and keep on blending. And you could totally do this by hand, and I'm gonna finish actually by hand to make sure I incorporate all the smaller, finer pieces. So I'm gonna knead it by hand, and you kind of want to knead for a little bit, well, I would say about 3 to 5 minutes, so that the gluten develop a little bit, but not not overly so, because otherwise it might be a bit of a tough tortilla. So kind of mix it until it's kind of smooth and feels quite soft as well. So I'm gonna knead it a little bit more. So you can totally do this, like I said, the recipe, just a basic recipe: 2.5 cups of whole wheat flour, half a cup of either oil, or you can use tahini like I did, and then 1 cup of warm water. So that's kind of the proportions. And instead of water, obviously I've used the pepper paste this time, and you can use the same for the sweet potato like I've made in the past as well. So just replace the liquid with the sweet potato puree, and if you need a little bit extra, obviously add a bit more water to that. So I'm gonna knead it for another minute or so. And the secret apparently to soft tortilla is leaving this dough rest for at least an hour or more, even up to 24 hours. So obviously for that you need to wrap it in cling film and perhaps put it in the fridge. But I'm gonna wait about an hour while I prepare other ingredients for the wraps. So I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna cover it with the silicone ball wrap I've got, and I'm gonna let it rest for an hour now. So the dough has rested now for about an hour, and we're gonna be rolling the wraps. So take about a golf ball size kind of chunk and roll it into a ball. Flatten it slightly with your hand and drop it in a bowl of flour. And then we're gonna roll it out on the counter first. Just roughly roll it. I'm not an expert in rolling, and I can't get like really round shapes or anything. Just do your best, and then sprinkle a little bit of flour as well on the surface and on your rolling pin too, so that it doesn't stick. Obviously don't oversaturate it with flour, because you don't want it to become too tough, for your wraps to be too tough. So once you have your wrap roughly rolled out, place a piece of parchment paper or baking paper. You can sprinkle a little bit of flour on the top and on the utensil, and then roll it even finer on this. So on here you'll be able to achieve even finer thinness of your wrap. So obviously make sure you don't make it so thin that it starts tearing, but as soon as it starts kind of buckling it like this a little bit, or at the edges, you know, if you see it's kind of starting to buckle and crease, then it means, you know, it's thin enough. So I'm gonna just roll it out a little bit more, and we're gonna go fry them. So yeah, so it's fairly thin. The wrap is fairly thin. You could probably even roll it slightly even thinner if you like. You could try. So yeah, let's go to the hob and fry these. So I've got my non-stick pan really hot, and I've got it on high because you want a high heat and very short time of cooking. So I'm gonna place the wrap on the pan, and you kind of literally leave it for about a minute. So I can put a minute on here, but literally not very long. As you can see, it starts already to kind of puff up and dry out. So you need some kind of a flipping tool because it's quite hot, although I sometimes just flip it by hand. But you have to be careful not to touch the sides of the pan, obviously, as it is very hot. So yeah, so since I've put on a minute after a little while, I'm gonna flip it and give it another minute, and that wrap will be ready to go. And normally have like some kind of arrangement like this, where I put a towel, and then, you know, once I put a wrap in, I cover it. So that'll be ready now. So it's nice and flexible. So put that on, place the towel over it, and go to your next wrap. So this is a smaller one. So put that on. Literally, you don't even need to set the time. What you can do, you can just watch the pan, well, the wrap, when it starts drying out and bubbling up places. You know, give it about, you know, another half a minute or so, and then flip it, because you want a... So I've heated my frying pan, non-stick frying pan, on the high heat, and you know, make sure it's really hot. And then you need to take your wrap and put it on, and it should start kind of blistering and drying out pretty soon enough. As you can see, it's changing color some places and bubbled up, you know, bubbling up. So give it a few more seconds, and then we'll be ready to flip it. So the important thing here is not to overcook the wraps. You need to kind of really do it fast on the high heat, so then you've got quite soft wraps. So then flip it on the other side. So about a minute or less, actually, it's probably about less than a minute. you know, on either side. And then I've got the a towel, and then I keep on placing them one on top of each other and then put the towel on. I've got a towel underneath as well, and then just keep them kind of warmish and supple. So this one is ready now. So we're gonna put it in and gonna do a couple more. So got this one. This one actually is a little bit thicker than the other one. I must have not rolled it out as thin, so it's taking a little bit more time to kind of bubble up and change colour, but it's getting there. So the thinner you roll your wraps, you know, the more kind of flexible and, you know, soft they're gonna be. See, it's bubbling up, so a few more seconds. And we're going to flip this. So I'm going to flip that. It's proper rising, this one. So about half a minute, 45 seconds on the other side as well. Careful, see, there's some steam escaped from the pocket, and it kind of nearly scalded me. So be careful. Best to use obviously the tools, because even though you might not touch the pan, but like you've just seen, the air escaping from the hot pocket could be pretty hot. So now, guys, to taste testing phase of the recipe.
Always my favourite part. It seems like my wife has prepared a feast. So I'm just going to taste the wrap by itself, just so I can give an honest opinion. No, it's a good wrap. It's,
yeah. I haven't added salt, so you can't do that.
Yeah,
but since we're going to be filling it with loads of stuff, I don't think it's needed.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say it is quite a plain wrap, but
yeah,
you've kind of got all this stuff to go in it, and I think that's where your flavour comes from.
Can you taste the pepper?
A little bit. They're very subtle.
Is it nice and soft?
It's soft. It's not too thick. You know, this obviously it's quite airy. So I think once you get all this stuff in it, it's going to be yummy.
Give me a piece.
I knew you couldn't resist. My wrap's getting smaller by the second. I haven't even put anything in it yet.
I think that's good.
It's good enough.
Yeah, and like I said, the trick is not to overcook it on the frying pan. Just give it a quick, you know, fry on one side and the other, and that keeps the wraps nice and soft and supple. So there you go, guys.
Yeah, don't mind me, I'm just going to carry on and dig in. Okay guys, so while I'm making this, if you could leave some comments, you know, let us know what you thought of this. Try it yourself, maybe try some different fillings of your own, and let us know how they go. Yeah, give us a like and join us in our upcoming videos. We'll see you then.